Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids and we're back for some more Gwent, and today, rather than doing our usual Rogue Mage Friday night stream, thought we'd do a little bit of Gwent draft mode because, well, first of all, I got a terrible night's sleep, so I am very much still half asleep right now, and just to be blunt, not sure that I'm up for doing some Rogue Mage right now, but I was thinking we could do some draft mode here because, a little bit lower stakes, don't care too much about we win or lose in that. And of course there is the new anniversary event, which includes some rewards for doing a series of different things, which includes some draft mode matches, which is right here. So we need to play 3 draft mode matches during this celebration, this event, in order to get this title, and then after that 5 more to get the Gonter Dim avatar. So that's in theory the goal here. That means we need to do 8 matches total, I think. So, I mean, why not? Let's hop in. Of course, haven't done too much draft in the past. We've done it for various celebratory purposes in the past, but that was just about it. So maybe 2 or 3 runs before, and I think we'll just go for, neither one, really. We'll go reward points. So, of course, the draft mode means, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, that we will be creating a deck from scratch here, and rather than using cards from our own collection, we will be using cards, or choosing cards, from a set that they present to us. Okay, let's go. So, we get to choose our faction and our leader ability here. Granted, the options that we will have in terms of the cards we can choose will not necessarily be exclusive to the faction that we select here. So, for example, if we take monsters, we won't just see exclusively monsters and neutral cards. We could see still any faction. In theory, should be stuff that still synergizes with what we're seeing here. So, bleed or something like that for blood scent, control for imprisonment, and spawning, I would assume, for congregate. Don't think I've used any of these for draft in the past. Imprisonment feels like that's pretty safe bet. Maybe I've used this before in draft. I mean, there's pretty much always going to be at least something that's worth locking. I feel like that's the most straightforward option here, but I'm also pretty sure I have a Monsters Daily. So I might take Blood Scent just for that. No, we'll go, I mean, Congregate's probably the most interesting. Blood Scent, maybe middle ground. Imprisonment's the easy one. We'll go Blood Scent. Middle of the pack. And yeah, I was expecting, so we'll choose what is basically a key card here. And then this will be sort of one of the foundational pieces of the deck, and I think many of the subsequent options that we'll get are going to be based upon this card. So Poison in the case of Morale, Bleed in the case of Unseen Elder. Surprised to see Isengrim here. Not really sure why Elf Overload would be something that makes sense with monsters. So I mean, Unseen Elder seems like the obvious choice. So then, let's see, Armor? Not really sure why we want to go that route. I mean, Dire Mutated Hound is a good engine, make no mistake, but still. Witchers, Patience, what the heck? None of this stuff makes any sense at all with what we're trying to do here, I would think. So, I mean, in a vacuum by itself, what works best? I mean, Casting Contest can still work on other bronze units with order abilities. Doesn't necessarily have to be NR. Oh, but Practice Makes Perfect is pretty useless if you don't have... Yeah, this doesn't even come with any bronze mages. Yeah, no way. Witchers, I mean, Leo is great if you have a bunch of Witchers, but... I think it might be the armor pack here, just because Dire Mutated Hound can work by itself. But it's not ideal. Board Swarming, this really looks like what would have been great options if we had gone the Syndicate route. Offense, Vampire, I mean, this is what we were looking for, right? Lead and Vampires, at least that's what I was expecting we'd find when we used Blood Scent as our starting choice, so I think we probably do go this route. I'm not necessarily sure that's going to stack up all that well against opponents, but let's see. I mean, I think we're probably going for more Vampires here, or Bleed. I mean, suppose both of them could work. Bloody Good Friends, Panther, War Chariot versus Crimson Curse, Bruxa, then Molahem Hunter. I do kind of like having the lock. Gives us an option that we would not otherwise have, whereas this is more pure bleed. So I think this gives us a little more flexibility. I mean, Yenvo is pretty good at just about any circumstance. It really wanted us to take Syndicate, didn't it? I feel like we would have had a really nice deck if we had done that. But Detloff is the most natural choice for a bleed-centric deck. So, not going too crazy here in terms of picking things that you would... I mean, it's a lot of monsters, right? So, it doesn't look that different from your typical monsters, vampires deck. But Hammond would be another way to apply bleed with a card that is not usually accessible to monsters. And, I mean, Vandergriff, yeah, you're in the shield package, but it is resilience, which is kind of nifty. Just another tech card of sorts. Kind of like the lock that we took earlier. It doesn't synergize as well, but, I mean, you could probably still do this. Defender with Figus. More bleeding. Okay, at this point, we do have a ton of bleeding. And I think one thing that I've perhaps made a bit of a... Oh, maybe mistake is an aggressive way of phrasing it, but one thing to at least consider when you're using a draft deck is one of the most fundamental rules of deck building in any form of Gwent multiplayer is the quote-unquote rule of 16, which basically means in a normal match, you're only ever going to play 16 cards. The 10 cards drawn to in round 1, and then if it goes for the 3 rounds, you'll draw into 3 more cards in round 2 and 3 more cards in round 3, so a total of 16. So that means you want to have the best possible 16 cards to play, and everything else beyond that 16 is something that you're going to ideally just mulligan or never see. So for that reason, if we already have 16 or thereabouts, that many cards that are good at applying bleed, then getting any more than that is kind of overkill. Like, are we ever going to play Plumbered when we can ideally be playing bigger bleed cards than that, like, Fletter and Alp and Hammond and Proto-Fletter? I didn't even remember picking that up, but, ideally we're just not playing this stuff. Queen of the Night is slightly better, but I mean, still, 6 points, 3 bleed is not amazing. Purification is a little bit of something that we would otherwise not have much access to. But Figus with the Defender status is kind of interesting because that can help us protect, most significantly, probably Unseen Elder, to a slightly lesser extent, Detloff. Proto-Flutter if it gets a big boost, and Dire Mutated Hound. Yeah, I mean, that actually is a good card to hide behind. Figus and other stuff. Giving 5 boosts, not a huge factor. Armor to a Dwarf, it's pretty much just Figus. The Agitator actually giving armor. Oh, no, but it has to be a Dwarf. Darn, I was going to say, it actually could have synergized with the Dire Mutated Hound, but not exactly. The other thing, the reason why I brought up the Rule 16 is because doing things that summon out cards from your deck, in draft in particular, if you do things like, I think there's a triple Roach or triple Knickers package, those things are fantastic for rounding out your deck, because that way you are actually finding a way to get value beyond the 16 cards that you're actually playing directly from your hand. So I think we probably will still go this route, but let's keep an eye out for other ways to summon things out. Okay, so definitely not raids. That doesn't make much sense for us. Probably not move. I mean, again, it's more bleed. Crimson Curse is definitely good, but yeah, I feel like we probably went a little too aggressive on the bleed. Not sure we had that many good alternatives, but 5-point boost, hand boost, poison. We did not really... Do we have any poison at all? We saw it pop up on a few occasions. I don't think we took it. I mean, Thirsty Dame could still get boosted from it. Thirsty Dame is, of course, not a card that you normally get in monsters, but with all of our bleed, that will be one of our best cards, potentially. So that is definitely a nice addition. But, yeah, not really going to be able to do much with poison outside of that Thirsty Dame boost. So it's basically a carryover, or just straight up points. I think tactical advantage. It's more straightforward, yeah, but we'll go for it. Okay. So, as I said, I am very much still half asleep. So, I'm kind of very much expecting for us to, get demolished by anyone who has a fully functioning brain right now. But we'll see. That is also the reason why I put Sleeping Evil as our title there. But, let's see. I think I got one of the events. Yes, card backs unlocked. Oh, is this the one we got? This one, yeah. Just feels a little more fitting. And I don't know anything. Oh, I didn't even remember. We're allowed to take any leader here, even though we're monsters. Okay, just for the sake of it, let's take something that is not monsters. What is the least monsters-like leader? I don't know. An elf? An aristocrat like Anna Henrietta? Maybe? Is Anna Henrietta secretly a monster? Blood and wine flashbacks? Maybe, possibly. You know what? That is actually, given how we're doing a vampire deck, that is too fitting to pass up. We have to do that. We just have to do that. Okay. Let's jump in here, and let's see how we fare. So yeah, I feel like what I really wanted to see was Regis, was it Reborn? The one that increases the base power every turn that you have a bleeding enemy? That felt like that was really the finisher that we needed here. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and we'll go first. Okay, so we have plenty of Blood Moon here with 2 Crimson Curses and a Detloff. Combine that with Thirsty Dame, and that is a pretty insane combo right there. You have Dire Mutated Hound, which is a good point scoring engine, but we don't have a lot to support this if it takes damage, and given how their Skellige Rage of the Sea, they probably have a lot of damage, so not loving that. I mean, their key card might be Melusine, in which case our bleed is going to be rather tough to pull off. I think we dump you. Ficus, maybe to protect Thirsty Dame. Flutter will also be pretty important for us as well, I think. Flumbered, let's dump you. Might keep you just in case. Might keep you just in case. So, problem here is, I don't know how aggressively we want to push in round 1, because we do have some really nice stuff with Detloff and Crimson Curse. Thirsty Dame, maybe is it Flutter round 1 that we build around, and then we save Thirsty Dame plus the Blood Moon stuff for round 3, maybe? So I'm just not sure we have enough firepower if we start using this stuff in round 1, but is Flutter enough by itself? It's kind of questionable. Yeah. Let's start with Dire Mutated Hound, actually. Let's do that. They're probably going to be able to remove that armor pretty easily, but we don't have anything to target with bleed, so it just feels like this is not yet the time to be playing Flutter. Probably next turn for that. Okay, Stunning Blow is the perfect counter. And the reason why I said we have basically no support for this is because we don't have any coin generation, so we have no way to get the armor back. So that's not ideal. It was a test. It was a test to see if this could stick around. Then it would have been a solid first turn play, but so now the problem is we really wanted them to play units. We have a bunch of stuff that we would like to give bleeding so we can power up Flutters and Thirsty Dames. I guess we go Flutter now, and we should probably boost it here just so that it's not as vulnerable because they clearly have a lot of damage. So assuming they play a unit, we can at least start to do things like play the Alp, play Hammond, and so on and so forth. We don't really have pirates to synergize with Hammond, do we? I mean, he's basically a higher base power thing that's going to give us some bleed. Okay, Kirak Frigate. I mean, that would be fantastic to use Crimson Curse in this row here if they're going to spawn a bunch of stuff in there. That is tempting. We might just lock that, though. I mean, we could also give it bleeding, but I think we probably opt to lock it and shut it down. And next turn will probably be Alp, but in the name of powering up this Flutter, probably do this. So we could protect the Flutter with Biggest, but I'd like to ideally save that for Thirsty Dame and Detloff in a subsequent round. So I'm thinking it's Hammond and it's Alp are really the 2 other cards we want to play. Anything more than that, rather not do. Ooh, Croc, that's big. Would have liked to have locked him, of course. What can we do about Croc? Because I'm not really sure that we can do much at all. I mean, our lowest base power card is going to be Dire Mutated Hound. I guess it doesn't make a big deal. It is not a big deal for us if it gets destroyed. So maybe we just get some more cards on the board here. And you take a couple of turns to get the full value out of your bleed. So let's lead with you, and then Hammond can get the full bleed effect on our next turn. And that's probably the last card we want to play. Ooh. Okay. Oh, they're deliberately trying to... Wow, that's interesting. They damaged their Bear Abomination with Croc. Didn't see that one coming. Okay, so this is actually worth a little more bleed here. We'd rather not bleed you. We would... It's going to be overkill bleed on just about anyone, even on Croc. Probably not going to have this round going long enough. Don't really want to bleed you, otherwise we're just facilitating this card getting converted into... Oh, wait, no, it's already become Bear Abomination. Yeah, no, we're fine. For some reason, I was thinking this was a Svalbard Cultist, or Svalbard Fanatic, the one that gets converted into Bear Abomination once it reaches a lower Berserk number. Now we go Hammond. We don't have any other pirates, so, you know, this is not a huge factor here. We'll give you the bleed just because you only had one bleed. So it's probably the best target to give that to. And that's really the last card we want to be playing, I think. Because everything else we'd like to save. I mean, we could Point Slam with Figgis, but that's definitely not ideal. Okay, Vabjorn, they are clearly a raid deck. Fortunately, we don't have the Bloodthirst active here. Still going to take a little bit more damage from the bleed. We've a little bit of bleed as well. If Croc is still a bit of a threat here long term, but I think we're still willing to pass. Again, I mean, what would we play? Guess we could go I mean, I really want to save Thirsty Dame. So can they catch us in one turn is basically what we are setting them up to try to do. And they may be able to. That's pretty close. But remember, they're going to take all that bleed damage at the end of their turn as well. So it looks like they will not be able to catch us in one card. So either we're winning with card advantage here, or we're going to go permanently at least one card up. Oh, that's still not enough. They're going to take that point of bleed damage. They're going to need to play something else unless they go leader ability here, and they do. That is the right play. Otherwise, they would have been in serious trouble. But we didn't invest all that much in round one. And sure, they'll take the win, but long-term implications are definitely in our favor here. Alright, and these Iron Falcon Troubadours would have been great to have go along with the Dire Mutated Hound that got immediately shut down in round one. But now there's... I mean, we could give armor to anyone, theoretically, including Figgis, but I think that's still not nearly as good as something like Unseen Elder. We do technically have a throwaway card here, and they should dry pass, given how they played 2 more cards than us in round one. So this might not be a bad option to use as our throwaway and give the armor to someone. So, I mean, we have what it takes to push if... I mean, it really looks like they want to push, which is the wrong... Okay, good. I was going to say, don't do something silly here. Okay, so who do we want to give the armor to? Could be Figgis since he's the defender. Could be Unseen Elder in case he does get hit through the defender somehow, or Thirsty Dame if we don't want to row stack everyone in the same row. Detloff. I mean, probably just go Figgis, though. Probably just go Figgis. So it's a, you know, a little bit of carryover of sorts, and we win round 2. Alright, and we drew into all of our worst cards here. Don't really want any of those. So let's probably dump... I mean, what's our biggest priority here? Probably these two. Okay, tempering. I mean, it can still go on Figgis, I suppose. Or anyone for that matter. What do we want to lead off with? Possibly Figgis. Figgis, and then hide Unseen Elder behind him. Oh, we don't have to... Oh, Okay, I also just totally did not even register to me that we were going to need to consider the devotion, because I love Unseen Elder's devotion ability. It is probably the strongest devotion ability in the entire game by a significant margin, but he is substantially weaker without it, and we definitely do not have devotion. I did not even think about that. So, yeah, I mean, we will go Figus first. With the extra armor, he should be pretty hard for them to get rid of, but we would still like to play Unseen Elder early. We'd like to get the Thirsty Dame out there early to get boosted from all that bleed. Okay, Warcrier. It's going to be a little hard for them to deal damage when we have the Defender, unless they're about to apply bleed of their own to it. Granted, they do have Rage of the Sea, so they'll be able to hit through Figus to a small extent. So let's go Unseen Elder here. We'll give the bleed to you. And next turn is probably going to be the Thirsty Dame. Then we'll put Detloff between those two for the extra Blood Moon. I mean, we're just going to have more Blood Moon than we know what to do with. In fact, that could have been reason to play one of those in round 1, but wasn't really necessary. They have a second Croc. Well, I don't like that. Okay, especially not when we were, thinking about playing something important here, and that being the Thirsty Dame, which could become our lowest units. Actually, I think we might need to use both charges of Blood Scent here. I think we do, because if we do this, here's why. We play Thirsty Dame. We use both charges of Blood Scent. And, I mean, technically, there are enough turns here that we could justify doubling down on Croc. It's obviously overkill on this Deafening Siren, and this is not really a threat. So we will do this. The reason why I did it was because that gets us the Ekimara, which is 3 points. Now this is our lowest card, which means that if they trigger Croc here, it's going to hit Ekimara. And that's crucial, because otherwise we would have lost Unseen Elder. So Ekimara was the Sacrificial Lamb, because we knew we were going to lose something on that turn. And that card didn't matter. These cards absolutely would have, though. Okay, so now, I mean, Croc still remains a problem here. One that's going to be a little bit tough to deal with, but now let's go Detloff. We have 2 vampires we can have adjacent to him, which means longer duration of Blood Moon. Not that the duration's going to be much of a... Oh, tell you what, Crimson Curse was the right play there. Because, again, getting Ekimaras on the board to help protect Unseen Elder would be the... Yeah, that's... Yeah, that would have been, for the same reason it was the right play to get the Ekimaras on the board on the previous turn. That was the right move there. So, we're really hoping they don't activate Croc on this turn as well, but they probably will. Or if they do, is Unseen Elder somehow going to survive on 4 power? It's unlikely, but we'll see. If they don't do it this turn, we can get the Ekimaras out next turn, of course. Stunning Blow is actually okay. Yes, it's going to obviously hit our defender for a fair bit. But it means Unseen Elder lives, and it means we can now protect Unseen Elder considerably more. Obviously, duration-wise, as I was saying, Crimson Curse at this point, it's overkill. So I guess we'll go this row, and then next turn, or whenever, we'll go this row as well. I mean, at this point, I guess this last Crimson Curse is basically just a point slam for the 2 Ekimaras. Because everything else takes time to get the value from the bleed other than tempering, so it's going to be last turn, second to last turn, and everything else should have time to do its thing, but we need to do this now. And then we do a Blood Punch on probably you to remove the armor, just so we don't have that be a threat. I mean, yes, we can potentially get rid of this engine more quickly, but this just to try to shut down their damage so we keep our engines going. Yeah, now actually our smallest card is obviously Figus, so this is going to get destroyed if they activate... Oh, or they're going to do that. They do have a lot of raids, though, so it is possible they could still go after something here. No, it's just a point slam. It's a big card, though. But again, the Ekimara's coming in clutch there. Can use the damage on Terror of the Seas armor. Ooh, to hit Detloff. I think that's a misplay. They should have hit Unseen Elder. Then it would be tied for the lowest unit, and that means if they trigger Croc on their next turn, they could have potentially destroyed Unseen Elder here. But now, 2 turns bleed. I mean, you take a little while to do all... I mean, you are Thrive. Probably go for you for that reason. And it does give us another 3 power card, which means, once again, that some more stuff that'll get hit before Unseen Elder does. Now I think we prioritize getting rid of you. Croc is difficult to get rid of because of that armor, but the bleed will hit him through it. So, I mean, we could potentially Blood Punch him a little bit, but Champion's Charge is 5 damage. Okay, that's why they weakened Detloff there. So that got him into removal range for that. Could have, of course, been the recipient of a Tempering, and that is a way now to protect Unseen Elder further if we are concerned about him going down. Having the 2 3-power units does still help a lot, but at this point, I think we go Alp, just because this also takes some time to get the value out of this. So, in this case, I mean, again, the reason why I really wanted Regis Higher Vampire, or Regis Reborn, the one that increases the base power at the end of the match, is because we really don't have a good finisher here. Because Bleed takes a long time to do stuff. So at the end of the match, you're just not going to have enough time to trigger all those rounds of Bleed, and so it's not very useful. Set up the Death Blow there well. Does mean they're forced into getting... Actually, is it a random row that they get the Bear Abomination? Well, anyways. No Crimson Curse remaining in this row anymore, so I suppose we'll still go that route to keep it going. And we will Alp Bleed on you. Okay, Drum and Shield Maiden. Presumably they have another one in their deck, or possibly even 2 in their deck, because I don't think we've seen another one. And in draft mode, I feel like those come in a pack of 3, or maybe Ceres is the other card that comes with it. And we're definitely going to be hitting the damage on that. But even that will not be enough here. We had a pretty big lead. They don't think they can catch us, so they'll forfeit. I mean, I was not feeling super confident in this deck. I still feel like that was a close call there. Where fortunately we haven't had just enough damage to shut them down, but we can potentially fine-tune our deck a little bit further here. Let's see what we have. Ooh. Okay, Savage Bear is more bleed, but again, bleed is kind of overkill in this case. As we were just saying, we really need other finishers more so than anything. And this is an interesting Vesemir, Lambert, Eskel. It's not the Wolf School trio that gets summoned out from your deck. Was an option to take Witchers earlier, but I'm eyeing this group. I mean, Kingslayers, I hate that card, but basically just because of Junid is just about the best, I mean, around the best type of card we could ask for, because we deal a little bit of damage with Bleed, and then we have something like Junid to finish off one of those slightly damaged cards at the very end of the match. So it has a lot of tempo, which is what we're looking for, because it's what we're missing. So I do like that a lot. Usually that means we're... Oh no, usually it means we're getting rid of something to make room for that, but I think early on that's not necessarily the case. Okay. So let's hop in for the next one. I think our deck is marginally better now. At least Junid specifically makes it much better. The other cards were not very big additions. All right, going up against... Now, this is ironic. Detloff leading Nilfgaard against Anna Henrietta leading monsters. Vampires at that. You don't see that every day. Okay, and here are several of the cards, all of the cards that we just added to our deck. Junid, most significantly. I mean, Kingslayer, who knows if this is going to give us any value at all. The Saboteur, I mean, basically I added this package specifically for Junid and Junid alone. So we're probably going to dump both these guys. Love the Thirsty Dame pickup. That's big. Plummered is not that helpful, though. And Dwarven Agitator is not very helpful either. If it could only give armor to any type of unit, and we could give the armor to Dire Mutated Hound, that'd be substantially better. Okay, Guara, no idea what this is going to do. Oh, also they have the lock here, and they have imprisonment, so yeah. This was what I was referring to at the very beginning, having something like the triple Roach package, because you don't need to play Roach, but you're still getting basically a quote-unquote free 12 points, which is pretty awesome. So that's going to be tough for us to match here. Do you have anything with Veil? I mean, we have a Defender. Could help us a little bit with the fact that they have the lock. Anything else is subject to getting immediately shut down. I mean, we could Crimson Curse, and that's still going to give us some value from things other than units, so we might need to go that route. Or we throw it down a Dire Mutated Hound and just basically beg them to lock this. If it doesn't get answered, it gets a bunch of extra value, but it is going to immediately get answered, no question. Yeah, we could hide it behind Figus. Maybe that was worth doing, but I haven't made up my mind what we want to do with Figus yet. Maybe that was worth doing. But now, let's go Crimson Curse. There are a bunch of units in this row. So I think that's not a bad place to use that. And if we do get Thirsty Dame down here, then that's going to be a lot of bleed to support her. But kind of just feeling like the round one when they got as soon as we saw the 3 roaches drop down here, it's like, okay, I mean, our round basically needs to be perfect to win this, and I don't think it's going to be. So, oh, I also didn't even see we had Flutter. I mean, again, 2 very strong engines, but as long as they still have imprisonment charges, they can get immediately shut down. Okay, so they had Tactics deck as well with Fire Scorpion. That would perhaps suggest that's the case. Yeah, so I feel like we might be... I mean, on one hand, we need to play something big to force these out. On the other hand, it's all engines that take a really long time to power up. Hood, Flutter, Leader ability. That's worth something. I guess we do it. I guess we do it. I don't love it, but I guess we do it. So yeah, Turning Joust, damage here, double down on Turning Joust, or just straight into double down on Turning Joust with Stefan, and not the way we necessarily expected for our engine to go down here, but as I said, they just have too much control they have available to them for us to be able to set up any engine, so I think this is probably where we're going to end this round, to be honest. Problem is, they still have this imprisonment, so it's not... I mean, Defender is going to be key, I suppose. Okay, I do like Protoflutter, because we can get the full value out of this as soon as we play it. So that is capable of working a little bit around some of their control. So that is nice. Let's dump you two. That would have been great with the Dire Mutated Hound. Then again, it got immediately locked, so it didn't really matter. So they played one more card than us in round 1. But it was a short round still. Oh. Well, that's awkward. That's probably a throwaway for them. So we would perhaps like to do the same here. Iron Falcon Troubadour does still outpace them slightly, and we can put some armor on probably something like Figus, make it a little bit harder for them to get rid of that. Or something else, and I think it's mostly just... It's the lock that's the concern, less, or more so than the damage. I mean, if they have more tactics, then that might prove to be an issue as well, but I think that means that loading up on the armor on Figus in particular and just trying to have him tank as many hits as possible is still the way to go. We'd love if they just throw away another card here and basically give us an easy round 2 win, and then we can focus on the big stuff in round 3. That one's a little hard to read, because although it played for very little, obviously this is an engine, but not really sure how much assimilate they're going to have. We haven't seen much in the way of indications of, well, some. Aguara is an assimilate card, as can be technically Stefan, even if he's not usually used that way. So, I mean, we could... Saboteurs, I mean, the longer we wait on Saboteur, the better it is. Let's do this. It is enough, tempo-wise, to catch them. Although we technically have one more card to play than they do. And if they do play more, then potentially a bigger Saboteur. Okay, well, that will be sufficient. We could throw away Saboteur right now if we really want to get rid of it, but I mean, it does, technically does give us some bursty, immediately proccing damage, which, as we were saying before, is something that we were lacking when we were basically pure bleed. So, I think this will do. Okay, but please get this Dwarven Agitator out of my sight. That's what I want to see. This is what I'm looking for. Unseen Elder, hide him behind the Defender, along with Thirsty Dame. Get Detloff next to it, use Protoflutter, finish with stuff like Junid and Catwitcher Saboteur. Hammond, I mean, base power, a little more bleed. Not opposed to the lock on the Hunter. Crimson Curse would probably be the best thing we could draw into here, but I'm not necessarily sure it's worth taking that chance, because just having that option of getting lock, or, I mean, it does technically give us the chance of getting bleed as well, is definitely a nice tool to have available to us. So I think we will lead with Figgis here to help protect those key engines. Problem is, given how they're Nilfgaard, the lock doesn't really matter for him. The damage does to a certain extent, but he has the extra armor. If they have Yenvo, really don't want to see that, and I feel like there's a pretty solid chance that they do. Rune Word. That's kind of coming out from nowhere. Okay, Air choose a student, give them some boosts. Might potentially make Unit a little bit harder to pull off, but other than that, shouldn't be a huge deal. We could lock it, for what it's worth, and in fact, you know, maybe we wait for it to charge up a whole bunch, and right when they're about to use it, near the end of the round, that's when we lock it. That's an option. So, but this turn's probably either Unseen Elder or it's Thirsty Dame. Again, if they have more tactics, which it seems like they may, then one thing we need to be careful of is a Treason, which can hit through a defender. It would damage adjacent units by Figgis' power, which is 7. So it does mean that, technically speaking, whenever we play next to Figgis right now, could potentially get destroyed. In which case, we might lose Thirsty Dame, we might lose Unseen Elder. That would stink. We play something smaller beforehand for that reason? Possibly. So this is specifically here just to be a barrier for if they try to use something like Treason, because I would not rule out that they could have that. Helga. Shield. Lots of damage. They do lock Figgis. They might have Menno? Or rather, not Menno. They could very well have him. But I'm thinking of, I'm blanking out on his name. Vanamar. Destroy unit that is locked. That's also possible. But now we can either go Thirsty Dame here or Unseen Elder here, and it's theoretically at least slightly safer than it was before. So, why don't we go... Let's go Thirsty Dame. Then we can apply a whole bunch of bleed here between the Alp and potentially Leader ability as well if we really wanted to, but of course both these cards already had the bleed, so maybe that's a little overkill. It would be a way to get a little more boost on Thirsty Dame more quickly in case they're about to find a way to break through Figgis and still hit Thirsty Dame in the same turn. Unlikely, but it's another Stefan. Okay, here's what we're going to do against Stefan. We're going to use Hammond to move him into the melee row where he cannot use his ability. So that's the plan for sure. It means we're slowing down what would have otherwise have been Unseen Elder, which would definitely have been our preferred next card. Oh, we could also lock you. I think we move Stefan next, and then we might lock Hefty Helga if this still has a bunch of charges left, or they haven't yet played their tactics to give this charges. That's, I think, the plan. Or next turn this becomes damage. We use Junid to shut it down. plenty of options, in truth, but let's do this first. Everyone still has bleed, so we'll save the leader ability charges for now. So Stefan is shut down. Hefty Helga can still do stuff, so we want to try to find a way to get rid of you soon. Okay, Philip Van Drell. That's kind of coming out of nowhere. Ooh, that's very good, though. I'm surprised they did not immediately use the leader ability charge to lock the Thirsty Dame. But, okay. I think that means what we'll do here is we're probably going to use both leader ability charges and just get as many boosts on the Thirsty Dame as possible before it gets locked. Can play Unseen Elder here, and in doing so, force them to make a decision. Do they lock Unseen Elder? Do they lock Thirsty Dame? That's going to be a bit of a tough choice. We could go Junid and immediately shut down Hefty Helga. That would also be nice. Or we could lock Hefty Helga. That would also be nice. Choices. Let's go. I'm actually going to lock. Or... yeah, let's lock. And speaking of lock, that's what's about to happen to the Thirsty Dame. So let's give all the bleeds out to get as many boosts on Thirsty Dame before she probably gets locked here, because we did not play Unseen Elder, which means they are definitely locking Thirsty Dame here. So it does mean that Unseen Elder should be relatively safe. Ooh. Oh, they went the damaging route. Wow, that was well done. That was enough damage to... wait. Our Thirsty Dame was at 7? I thought it was at 9. Or did they... hold on. Did they have... they really have enough damage to destroy it? I thought our Thirsty Dame was too big to get destroyed like that. Alright, well, very good play. Fortunately for us, we have now shut down their engines. That's kind of what we prioritize, and that's also what they prioritize. But now... Unseen Elder and Detloff are the two cards that are most time sensitive here. So... take your pick. I am deliberately playing vampires next to each other, so I'm row stacking a bit because Detloff does want to have 2 vampires next to him when we play him. So he will be next here, in between these two, or in between these two, and probably just put the Blood Moon on whatever row has the most units in it. Okay, that is damage. They can technically destroy Unseen Elder if they destroy Hefty Helga here, but they would not be able to do that if they played Cyclops there. I would argue that was a misplay. What did they even get rid of? Okay, now we do this. We still have the vampires next to Detloff, and I think we will go bleeding here. Or Blood Moon there. So now we have the finishers that we lacked before. Okay, that's more good luck. They're going after Detloff. Unseen Elder remains unlocked. That's good for us, but means there are not a ton of units for Saboteur Dudes think they can't catch us here. They don't think they can. So we had the finishers, fortunately, if they had played further, but they won't even try. They forfeit. We'll take the win. And thus far, I remain surprised that this deck has been as effective as it has been thus far. Ooh. Well, we don't have, I don't think, a single Northern Realms card, so Amphibious Assault doesn't make a lot of sense. We also don't have any crimes in our deck, so getting cut up lackeys, I mean, might on occasion mean that we're transforming a weaker card into a 4 base power card, but the ability there is pretty much useless to us. She Who Knows, however. Now that could be interesting. But this is a... is this a key card, and therefore is this gonna... it is, right? So it's gonna force us into swapping out something like Unseen Elder, or... what was the other one? Was it Detloff? Those both have been very effective for us. Or are we allowed to add one more and then we're forced to start removing stuff? No, it looks like it's add, or I mean, I don't know. I haven't played draft enough to know specifically. Oh, this is one where okay, yes, I think we will end up removing one of them. But I mean, we could add amphibious assault here, in fact, but we still don't have any units even with that package. Relics, I think we might skip this one. We just don't really have enough synergies with any of these things. Shield, rain, more relics. Still not loving it. I mean, if we had committed to the relics last time, we could have potentially just done a full-blown pivot and changed from a bleed deck to a relics deck, but no, it just doesn't make sense with what we have right now. Okay. Ooh. Some interesting options here, though. The high power cards give us some potential finishers. Again, late match options, which we have now started to get a few of those, so it's not as urgent as it once was, but dropping a 10-point goalie out at the very end would be a decent final say type of play. Dimmin Pirate, slightly worse. More Worker, slightly worse than that. Dandelion for card draw, though. Matza to get... Ooh. Yeah, that consistency. For Matza specifically. He is definitely nice. I'm definitely thinking we might want to take this. How many orders do we have? Not a lot. I mean, we'd be basically relying on that entirely to come from Visigoda, which I do love. One of my favorite cards, but it just doesn't really synergize with what we're trying to do with this deck, so I think we're probably looking at the card draw for Matza in particular, guaranteeing that we get stuff like Unseen Elder or Detloff and what have you. Might end up losing one of those when we get to the removal section. Yeah. Okay, at least we get to choose between these three. So, the thing is... Oh, and maybe Unseen... Or rather, maybe because we picked up She Who Knows, that's why we start to see several Relics packages, more so than the Bleed packages. That would be my guess. So yeah, I think these guys synergize with what we're trying to do. She Who Knows is probably a better card than Detloff is in a vacuum, but in the context of all the other cards in our deck, I think Detloff still makes more sense. So, also just not sure we are going to consistently hit Sabbath because we're mostly a damage deck. So I think we get rid of She Who Knows. Then, those Crimson Curse packages are nice. Having two of them is, as we saw in our first match, a little bit overkill. But it does make it more likely that we're at least drawing into one of them. And a card draw, we're saying that does help a lot with consistency, though. I mean, I guess if the reason for having two Crimson Curses is for consistency, and this is also for consistency, then this also gives us a point slam to a certain extent. With a total of 6 points of Ekimaras, whereas these are a little less than that. Mata is 6 points, yes, but yeah. I'm not as big a fan of Isbel. I mean, technically, if you play her on your very last turn and you have last say, or you use her order on your very last turn and you have last say, you can get one more card than your opponent, but that's pretty gimmicky, and we aren't going to really be able to rely on that. If they gave us any other option, I probably would have taken card draw, but keeping things pretty much the same. Pretty much the same. All right. Oh, going up against what could be a mirror match here. Another Bloodthirst Monsters deck. Okay, and let's see. So for round one, we do have our defender. We have Detloff. We have Junid. I'd like to save him for round 3. Crimson Curse with Detloff. Collectively, those things might be a little bit overkill. Let's get rid of the Kingslayer. We have a lot of vampires. And we have a Flutter. Okay. Now we can build around Flutter plus Crimson Curse / leader ability, probably. This agitator is doing basically nothing for us. As are you. Oh, okay. That's a big addition. That is a big addition. So it's basically just a question of what is round 3 and what is round 1. I think this is a pretty sweet combo for round 3. And maybe use Defender to help protect them. And Unit for a finisher. And round 1 is Flutter plus Crimson Curse. Maybe. Still don't have a great first turn play here. Other than, I guess we go Flutter. And we go Tactical Advantage to try to keep it out of removal range. Because otherwise we didn't have any way to boost it up with Bleed. Okay, it's an Alp. That's probably what we're about to play next, for what it's worth. And yeah, I don't really see a better alternative. Okay, well, really looking like a mirror match now. And I suppose this. And then, so we aren't going to get any additional boosts on the Flutter here from applying Bleed. So if we have a lower source of Bleed, like the Plumber, this might actually be the right time to play that. And that is technically overkill Bleed, but this one had more Bleed on it. Probably still should have bled the Flutter. But we're still going to be enough turns remaining in the round for that to be a factor. You know, like, oh, that's not good. We'd like one of those. Can we get a Vincent, please? That'd be a pretty sweet addition. I mean, it's probably a more reliable unit in many ways, because I'd love to remove you, but your removal card can still destroy boosted units, whereas ours cannot. We're much better, technically we're better at applying statuses than we are at making cards damaged. So that fundamentally changes our plan here for round 1, because we were building around that Flutter, and without him, we'd have to commit something that we were planning to save for round 3. I think we might pass this here. Just weren't going to be able to outdo that Flutter without a Flutter of our own. Okay, and now we have Dire Mutated Hound plus the Iron Falcon Troubadour, which for once means we can actually make this Troubadour be, I mean, I suppose he was doing something when he was giving the armor to Figgis, but it is meaningful, giving the armor to you as well, and it is full 10 cards apiece here, so they could very well push aggressively in this round. Did draw into second Crimson Curse, which is a little bit overkill as we saw in our first match, but I think we can still make this work. As is. This was debatable, but we have 2 decent options to give the armor. It's mostly just a question of, are we patient enough to go that route? I think we are. My hope here is that Bleed is really good at dealing damage through armor, but it's not good at getting rid of armor. So Dire Mutated Hound, especially with a little bit of extra armor, would potentially be rather difficult for them to get rid of. Or at least hard to, shut it down. If they are pure Bleed. So now let's play the Dire Mutated Hound, and we will test that theory. Of course, the longer this remains with armor, the stronger it will become. Except I don't like that. Okay. Still have yet to find a way to have this guy work again. Could potentially hit it behind Figgis, but would have liked to use Figgis to protect higher priority cards like Unseen Elder and Detloff. So at this point, I think we may be looking at a Crimson Curse. It's a little bit early. They do have at least 2 units in this row, so it's something. It'll give us the Ekimaru, so it's a decent point slam as well. We want to play it on the somewhat early side, so we still have enough time to benefit from all those turns of Blood Moon. And we don't love having 2 in the same round, as we were saying before. So for all those reasons, I think it does still make some sense to do it here. Okay, Alp, and that was very much the card that I was thinking we were going to play next. It is, as we were saying, definitely pretty darn close to a mirror match here. So let's use it, and with it, just give bleed to... Technically, we do want to have bleed already on cards that are in the row with Blood Moon, right? I believe. So that means they'll get the extra damage from it. Okay, they are committing Unseen Elder. That's big. So they're pushing hard. Wasn't sure how much we should... Oh, they have Devotion. Okay, we lost. That was what I was saying. Oh, and also, when we... As I was saying when we first played Unseen Elder, oh, I really like his Devotion ability. It's probably the best Devotion ability in the game. We don't have Devotion. We probably should have considered that. And then I proceeded to immediately forget about that after the fact. When we had those options to modify our deck in between matches, and I don't know if we might have been able to switch into a Devotion deck, but that was perhaps something we should have given a little more thought to. We give you the bleed. Next turn we can Junid you, which would be really nice. We're gonna have to start playing some big stuff here. It's not Junid yet. I mean, if it's a short round 3 that they're potentially setting up here, then we're not going to have time to benefit from Blood Moon, so we'd like to make that happen a little bit earlier, I think. That Unseen Elder is going to be devastating, though, the longer it lasts. Technically, the bleed is going to get it low pretty quickly here, but probably still going to jump in with Junid on our next turn. Hey, Plumber, they're just spreading around the bleed. So yeah, I mean, Blood Moon and Bleed would take it out pretty quickly, although actually, hold on. Amateur Saboteur. Is that enough damage to destroy you? It might be. I think once you add in the Blood Moon, it will be. It is, okay. So, Unseen Elder is gone. For whatever that's worth. We are still going to need to play one more card here. Yeah, we might have wanted to consider... Are we? Yeah, we are. Might have wanted to consider throwing out all of our Blood Scent charges there, getting more bleed damage, and perhaps most importantly, just getting the 3-point Ekimaru on the board, because between all those things, that would have given us enough. So, I mean, now we're forced to play... something pretty big. Well, what are we most willing to play here? Yeah, that would have been pretty big. Pretty big difference maker if we had used the Blood Scent charges there. Like to save Junid. Do we try to go Defenderless, maybe? I think that's the play. I think that is the play. Obviously, would have been really nice. Really nice to have had that. We held on. We are a card down here, though. We do have all leader ability charges. They, I believe, have 2 out of 3. So we have a slight advantage there. We still have our Unseen Elder. I mean, it's theoretically possible they might have a second. But okay. I do very much like seeing Thirsty Dame here. Don't like the Agitator. Don't like the Troubadour. Don't like Kingslayer. This might be our last turn play because it is pretty much useless, or you are. So, as in our last turn play, you are not useless. But I think it's Thirsty Dame first. And it's got to stay alive. If it gets shut down, we probably lose, but the problem is no deploy target for Unseen Elder, or Detloff, or Alp. I mean, so whatever we play here is suboptimal unless it's Thirsty Dame. And if we do play Thirsty Dame, she's just really vulnerable. So, and maybe it's fine to play suboptimal Alp. It's a little bit safer, less ambitious. I mean, we do, since we're card down, perhaps need to be taking the high risk, high reward types of plays here. Well, they actually only have 1 leader ability charge left. Okay. This is pretty much a dead card. That's 4 points, yes, but the deploy ability is just about useless. Okay, so now we do want to try to get vampires next to each other as quickly as possible to set up Detloff. So I think we do put Thirsty Dame here, and we use this. So now you're at least a 5, so you're a little less vulnerable. Okay, these are pretty similar. Technically, our Thirsty Dame should be a little bit stronger. They've not row stacked as much as I would like them to row stack, which does make it a little bit difficult to use Detloff. So, we might Unseen Elder here. And again, like this, Alp is going to drop to a 2. It's probably going to live, but just in case, let's make sure that we have 2 vampires next to each other. Like an Unseen Elder down here as well. Okay, they're gonna go after Thirsty Dame at some point. No, they have a second Vincent! Are you serious? That's why we would have liked to have had our defender, but again, we needed to use it in round 2 there, unfortunately. So now it's gonna be Detloff here, so we can still get enough time to benefit a bit from the Blood Moon, but... And I guess it's this road, just because the units are slightly bigger. And technically, if we want to still have time to benefit from the bleed, we should start throwing some on you. Probably still overkill on Vincent here. Okay, a little more bleed. Surely they don't have another Vincent, right? Right? Tell me they don't. But now let's go, I mean, Kingslayer, just because we're going to probably try to save Junid for the very last turn and see what's the biggest card we can possibly get rid of with him. So this is basically a way to stall, and I doubt they're going to have a way to get that plummeted out anyway, but that's why saying this Kingslayer is kind of a throwaway card. We should do that. I'm debating even doing this. I guess we'll wait on our next turn, especially since they have card advantage and they have double last say. They will still take at least 2 turns of bleed. With our blood punch here. Let's hit you. Protoflutter. Ooh, can we get you damaged for Junid? I don't think so, because what I was thinking was we would do whatever unit they play, we'd blood send to get bleeding on it, we'd punch it with Detloff, and then we'd destroy it with Junid. But that's not going to work on you. You're too highly boosted. So, I mean, we will still give you the bleed, and we probably will still proceed to blood punch you, but pretty lackluster options here for Junid because everything is going to get destroyed by either bleed or combination of bleed and blood moon. So that is definitely not what we were looking for from Junid. Probably should have gone for the, well, I mean, he's still getting destroyed immediately. I was going to say that was technically an engine, but I mean, we do have a point advantage here. But they have 2 cards left. We still have some bleed on our units. It's possible we could still make this happen, but it's unlikely. Queen of the Night for more bleed. Unseen Elder will still give them a little more bleeding. So their last card here, they need 11 points-ish. I mean, obviously, if they have Regis Reborn, that is definitely enough. Hammond's a big base power card, but somehow we still won that? I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. Okay, so let's see what our options are to switch things around here again. If we can get Devotion, as we saw from the previous match, it makes Unseen Elder substantially stronger, so I would love if we could make that happen, but then again, we do have several non-monsters cards, including some... Actually, is the Devotion definition technically no neutral cards, or is it technically all cards from your starting faction? Because usually that wouldn't matter in standard or seasonal events, but in draft, of course, you can have this unique ability to get faction-specific cards that are not from your starting faction. Because we don't have that many neutrals, I don't think, but we do have several Nilfgaard cards. I mean, Morlahem Hunter, that one is disposable, but we definitely would like to keep the Thirsty Dame if possible. Yeah, they had some Nilfgaard cards because they had a few Vincents, but they still had the Devotion on Unseen Elder. Okay, so in that case, if we can get rid of our neutrals, I think that would be really nice, but we don't need to be too concerned about Ben Morlahem Hunter. Gale is potentially a finisher, and Garcane is another solid engine for us that we can potentially use to be... I mean, it's probably not strong enough to single-handedly win a round, but this is a pretty solid package for us. Shield, no thanks. Disloyal. I mean, this does get us to play a gold from our deck, which is nice for consistency purposes, but I just don't think we have enough going around for the other cards here for that to make much sense for us. Let's still take the most natural fit. Okay. So, thus far, pretty surprised with the positive results, because it does not feel like our deck is that good right now, but it has had just enough damage to get the job done, I suppose. And let's just take a look here. How many neutral cards do we have? Because I think it's actually a very small number. Oh, I know what it is. Wait, and it's the stupidest thing. I'm gonna be kicking myself for this. It's the Iron Falcon Troubadour. It's 2 Iron Falcon Troubadours are the things that are preventing us from getting Devotion. Oh, man. I mean, it hasn't been a factor yet, technically speaking. It would have been really nice to have had Devotion, but the fact that this is what is breaking Devotion for us, that kills me. That's painful. Yeah, it's technically no neutral cards, as we were saying before we kind of figured that out, but that stinks. So we would love to have an opportunity to get rid of those Troubadours. Are they coming with our Defender, though? I don't remember. They might be. All right. It's really confusing to see Kudron and then see Skelga, but it is Skelga we're going against here. Okay, so here is the culprit of our not having devotion. So, I mean, do we have anything for you to even do here? I mean, you could give armor to Unseen Elder, yes, but I think that's probably not a high enough priority to keep you. We do have Unseen Elder, that is big. We have Gale, which if we damage enough could be useful. Oh, we have several engines to build around in round 1 as well. And Bruxa, I mean, we don't have a lot of ways to trigger Thrive, but we have a few potential ways to get some higher base power cards down there. Let's give it a Tempering. Junid, okay, probably save him for round 3, so I'm thinking probably building around either the Fletter or Thirsty Dame, and just using our bronze cards, ideally, to give a bunch of bleed to power it up. And if something gets low enough, then maybe we're willing to use Gale in round 1. It's not the end of the world, and I mean, the fact that they immediately get a 5 power card out here for us to potentially go after is nice, and the fact that they appear to be self-damage, depending on what types of cards they're going after with that, that could make it easier to get Gale going. Like, you're gonna transform into a 6 power card once you take enough damage, and you also just didn't do any damage on that turn. Whereas they have something like a Svalblood Priest that'll damage one of their cards and legitimately weaken it. If they do that on the Jin, then that is a really nice target for us to hit with Gale. Or you, if we happen to get you low enough, but I think we could start with the Thrive. We'd like to have the engines on the board first, though. Let's go... Oh, not... I almost thought Gale was a Flutter. Wait. We do have Flutter, right? We do. Okay. We'll go Flutter first. That is... We probably should have done you. I meant to do you. That is definitely not the right card to be doing it to. I was going to say, we want to get the boost on Flutter to get it out of removal range, but that's just not the way to do it. Okay, Ceres. We're learning more here. That does make sense with self-damage. Wait, hold on. We went the Queen's Guard route. That's a little surprising. But yeah, that's why we just made it so that it was going to convert. It was already going to convert at the end of the turn, but it loses the bleed when it does that, so it was just quite literally pointless. It did give a boost to Flutter, but this was objectively the right answer. It was a misclick, as I said. So now we'd like to go Alp and use this as our means to power up the Flutter, and we'd like to target an actual unit that will take the damage and keep the damage on it to potentially set up Gale later on. And you are the highest base power card now, unless we... I mean, this could be the Bear Abomination. Now that this has converted, we can go after it. Are we going to have enough damage to lower you into Gale removal range? Possibly. I mean, if it is bleeding, then we get the 3 damage, so it's actually not that difficult to make that happen. We would also kind of like to get the Bruxa down here. But yeah, don't want to be going after these Queen's Guards, otherwise they'll create copies of them. And that's a little bit tricky with some of our cards, like Unseen Elder will randomly give out bleed. So this scares me a little bit. And they have more Queen's Guards. Ooh, okay. Not loving that. Let's give bleed to you as a backup plan in case for whatever reason we can't get you low enough for the Gale setup. Then let's go Bruxa. I'm not sure we're going to have that much time to benefit from the Thrive here, but deliberately did this first because that's one more turn of bleed, which means one more point of boost on Flutter. Could at least try to make up for the pretty bad misplay on that previous turn. Sloppy at the very least. Whoa! Where did Onsays come from? Can we do anything to stop Onsays? We can give him bleed, but that's not really gonna matter. It's not gonna be quick enough. We can't damage him quickly enough to destroy him with Junid. Moving him doesn't really matter? And even if we do give him the bleed that's not in removal range for Gale, as awesome as that would be. I think that may mean we're just proceeding as initially planned here. And going with something like Alp. And I mean, we can give you bleed. And, in fact, would prefer to do that. So this is too big for them to remove with Onsace unless they're about to boost him before they use that order ability. Those Queen's Guards, man. Wow. This is pretty impressive. Surprised we aren't hitting this one, though. I mean, they might have hit another one that also could use its ability there, but... Yeah, they did opt to use Onsace. I mean, it means they didn't take as much bleed damage, so I suppose it was technically still worth it. But, let's see, if our finisher was going to be... Gale in this round... If we put the bleed on you, it is possible to get a 6-point boost on you, which makes you a 10. I mean, that's something, for sure. Is that enough? I mean, not single-handedly. I mean, it's still pretty good tempo. It's at least worth giving it a shot, I think. Does need to be melee. Destroy you, get the boost here, get the boost there. Does get us close, but man, these Queen's Guards. Pretty crazy. Earn a Chad? What the heck? I mean, technically, it's kind of late to be doing this, but we can Crimson Curse. Do the bleed. We prefer that it not hit this Queen's Guard, but it can work around Earn a Chad to a certain extent. Otherwise... anything else is getting destroyed. Yeah. I think it might be worth it. I think this, when you factor in the bleed damage that they'll be taking in the 6 points we get from the Ekimaras, the bleed also boosts up our flutter. Forces them to play a little bit further. Do they have Witchers to do this with? Yes, they do. That's very unfortunate. Except actually, I mean, this one's going to get destroyed by Blood Moon before it gets a chance to get converted. So there is that, but playing anything else does require that we get something destroyed by Ernachad. Tell you what, with all the bleed damage and the boost we get from Flutter, if we pass here, they might still need to play something, and they have played one more card than us. It's going to be pretty close. They're going to take, 2 damage from the bleed. No, it's not quite enough. It's so close, so close. Okay, but they did play one more card than us in round 1, so they're probably going to dry pass. We do have some big cards here. A lot of big cards, in fact. Detloff, Unseen Elder, and Thirsty Dame as our primary engine to get boosted from those guys, and Junid as our finisher. Hammond, Point Slam. Would have used them in round 1 if they had not used Ernachad. This would be our throwaway. Ideally, could actually get some potential value long-term. Alp gives us mid-range-ish. Not quite, but, you know, an option if they try to get a little bit into bleed territory in this round. Rather they not do that, because they would probably end up trading small cards for their small cards for our big cards. That's an exchange we'd rather not make. So I'm not pleased to see that. I'm also not pleased by how Sigvald really likes to take bleed damage. And that's what our entire deck is built around. He might need to be a future Junid target. He might need to be. We might need to go Alp, Alp or leader ability. Apply bleed. You take 1 damage from that bleed, and on our next turn we move you with Junid. Obviously would like to save him, but I don't think we have that luxury anymore. You are an amazing card against us. And the question is also, how aggressively are they playing here? Are they just tempo passing with a 7-point unit? I feel like they are not, because that's a pretty nice card. Went into another Witcher. Oh my goodness, they have a second turn in chat. And his adrenaline is already active. And that is why Kingslayer first was going to be, if they try pass, what I was going to do, and, you know, maybe we would high roll and happen to banish their Urnachad. It has a shield as well, so that's also not really something that we particularly like to see. We can potentially still hit you with bleed through that. It's going to hit the shield first, but the bleed does ignore armor at the very least, which means eventually Junid could destroy you. But whatever unit we play next is getting destroyed. Why don't we do this? We'll sacrifice Kingslayer. Is definitely the most disposable card. That gets rid of the shield and banishes one of their weakest cards, which kind of stinks, but most importantly, you're getting damaged, which means we can destroy you on our next turn. So otherwise, this would be a game-winning play from them. I mean, it was practically that in round 1. Could have potentially done this in round 1. Led their inner chat and used Junid to remove it. Obviously, we wanted to save Junid in that case, and didn't really expect for them to have double Urnachad. Ooh. That would be able to save Urnachad, unless we destroy him right now, which is exactly what we're about to do. Okay, so at least we've gotten rid of him. This Bloody Baron, I mean, at the moment we don't have anything boosted, so it's not a huge problem, but obviously this round is going longer than we would have liked it to have gone. We might have wanted to use some leader ability charges there as well. I mean, technically, they have played one more card than us, but they might pass here. So we would like to be, now that we've addressed the Urnachad issue, putting down points quickly here. Problem is, the things we have left are engines, and with not much time left in this round, that's not good. Playing them with no time to set up. Ada to hit Junid. They reset Sigvald. So here's the thing. If we think they're pushing all the way, Thirsty Dame first is the right play. And then we use our other vampires to help set her up. I think we kind of need to do that. If we're going purely for the point slam, it's Hammond and leader ability charges. But I think they're pushing pretty darn hard here, and they only have 2 cards left. But if we're trying to have enough time to still catch them here, then I think we need to get very aggressive now. They will pass here. Okay, I think we can catch them. because we just need to put up 10 points. They still have 2 points of bleeding here, so really even less than that. I think that means we can save these guys, and Hammond alone should be sufficient here. And don't need to really be concerned about this order ability anymore. We do that, and we will win round 2 with... Do they have 2 cards left? I think they do. Yeah. Okay, so 2 cards apiece, but we did save some big stuff here. Okay, we definitely don't want to see the Troubadour at this point. Technically, it could have helped the Dire Mutated Hound. We are looking at a whole bunch of engines, at least these 3, with not much time to power up. We want to get more vampires to set up Detloff, but then again, might just go Unseen Elder first. No, we're going first. Guess it's Dire Mutated Hound first turn. 2, 3, 4, 5. That might still be the way to go. I'm not necessarily sure. We'll probably still do better than that. Garcane, also an engine that doesn't have enough time to build up, really. I mean, it could be a first turn play. This is potentially 1 point per turn. This is potentially 2 points per turn. I think we probably do have to lead with this for that reason. It is, however, a vampire that can make Detloff stronger. Better Detloff. Talking about Blood Moon for, I think it's still going to be more turns than we are going to have in this round anyway. So I don't think the extra round of Blood Moon makes much of a difference. I think we, for that reason, prioritize the Dire Mutated Hound. Will they finally not be able to answer this? Because every time we played this card, it has been immediately answered. Ooh. Well, there's your answer. Yes, they do have a way to shut it down. Alright then, so now we're looking to go Unseen Elder, get this going as early as possible, then it'll probably be Detloff next to him. Again, would like a longer round for these guys to really kick off, but they bled us pretty darn aggressively in round 2. These guys technically played for 4 points apiece. And they matched an Unseen Elder, though. Ooh, that's not a bad Scorch. Removing Unseen Elder, so... I mean, he did still get the bleed damage off, so technically speaking, we are still ahead here. It does mean less for Detloff to do, and in fact, throwing down the Blood Moon when they have 1 unit in this row, and that unit is already going to have enough bleed to get destroyed. Not so keen on that. So I think we'll actually take a turn here to get down the Garcane and get a little more time to power this one up. Because there is a bleeding enemy, it means we will have 1 vampire we can put Detloff next to as well. I mean, again, at this point, the extra turns of Blood Moon is pretty much irrelevant. There's already not enough time to benefit from all those turns, but this is going to be next turn, last turn. Well, depends what they play. We might want to lock something. Might not benefit from the lock, depends. If they have anything that we can shut down. Cohen? Where the heck did that come from? Huh? I mean, yes, technically. We can lock him. Because he does have an order. He's just a 3-point body, which means without that order, he's not doing much, but they do need to boost him. And right now, by definition, Morils is... If you're boosted, you're not going to be on the same power as this guy is. So I think we still go with Detloff here. Ifrit isn't that bad. Mostly just because the base power. There aren't very many units for it to go after. It's not going to come off cooldown here, so I think we will in fact, go for the bleed. And that means we can blood punch you. And we have a 10, gonna be more than that, point lead here. So they need a pretty big finisher. It's Glorious Hunt. But that's not enough. We'll hold on for the win. So somehow, we keep on winning with this deck, even though it really doesn't feel like it's that strong. Because that's what? Is that 4 in a row now? Or maybe even 5 in a row? Oh, now you're really tempting me, though. Now you're really tempting me, though. I mean, Salamander Hideout makes basically no sense at all for us. Could get a Detloff. Remember, this is sort of the key card that's gonna, by adding one, require that we remove another one. So we can add a Detloff and then remove either Unseen Elder or our existing Detloff, in which case it's on net gonna do nothing. But that Dogger, I am a huge fan of Dogger, and we do have tons of damage. So we could get Dogger boosted up quite a bit. That being said, we have surprisingly had a lot of success with our pure vampire setup. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or hold on, this gives us a lot more point scoring potential. We should go this route. Also, Dogger is one of my favorite cards, if I haven't already said that, so I really want to take him. But I mean, he's single-handedly a potential win condition, or at least everything else combined with him can turn him into a win condition, whereas Unseen Elder and Detloff feel like they require a little more support. At least Unseen Elder when we are not Devotion. Unseen Elder with Devotion probably would be enough to win a round by himself, but it's so tempting. It's so tempting. I wasn't going to do it, but I kept on talking about it, and eventually I succumbed. Okay, so we want to try to find a way to get rid of our neutral cards. And we have one package that has a neutral in it. We have 3 packages we'll be adding here. This has neutrals, Quacks, which is, for consistency purposes, kind of nice. Our biggest cards are Unseen Elder, which technically does have a deploy ability, but it's not a huge deploy ability. And Detloff, we definitely want his deploy ability, though. Yeah, no, we're not going to Quacks. And obviously, as I said, it's another neutral, so it takes away from us trying to get to Devotion here. Queen of the Night is not great. I mean, this is more bleed, yes, but it's not particularly great bleed. We saw this option previously. We opted not to take it. Panther Melee Row does give us some short-term damage, so I mean, that's something that we would not have otherwise had much access to. Still thinking that we're probably skipping this, though. Really want to see something good here that does not have neutrals in it, though. And unfortunately, this has neutrals in it. Don't think the rain makes a lot of sense. I mean, yes, it is damage, so in that case, it's kind of useful, but there's just... With only 3 rain cards in our deck, I think that's not really all that practical. Brocklon Sentinels, they can technically give us some additional value from our deck. Hold on, if we have 2 Sentinels in our deck, 1 in our hand, it means we play 1, get the deploy ability that's 4 points, summon out the other 2, so that's 8 points, and 2 thinning. For consistency purposes, that's kind of nice. I'm just because we're kind of looking for more stuff here, more packages to get rid of that neutral package, and forcing the issue here a little bit, but we'll try it. Okay, because I don't really like anything that we see here. No thank you on the raids. The shields have a neutral, and just in general, doesn't really fit with what we're trying to do. Relics we saw before, but just doesn't make a lot of sense because we would need a whole lot more relics where these came from in order to have this really kick off. So I think we skip this. And we're really looking to... Okay, this is a key card. Again, technically we could go back on what we'd done before and just say get rid of Dogger. I was thinking... I mean, I wish this was going in the other order. If we could confirm if we're going to get rid of the neutral, then we could make a more informed decision of, okay, if we are Devotion, our Unseen Elder is definitely the best option here. If we do not have Devotion, then you could potentially make a case that Deadloff is stronger than Unseen Elder. Dogger, again, is greedy, but I really like him. I think we'll take our chances here. We'll remove Deadloff. We did not get the package we were looking for here. Ooh, and these are good packages. I wasn't sure if the neutrals were coming from our Defender package, in which case that would have been a tough choice, whether to get rid of them or not, but yes, technically 2 Crimson Curses is overkill, but as we were saying before, if we either make a opponent playing 1 in one round and the other in the other round, or just, we might only draw into one of them, it is nice to have 2 for that reason. So, yikes. I do like the Van Rollenham Hunter as well. We might have another one of them somewhere in our deck. Can we still see this? We can. How many Hunters do we have? We do have 2. Even if we dump this, we still have 1 left. Plumbert is not great. Alp, we have several of those, right? We have 3 Alps. Guess we remove this. Figus, of course, doesn't contribute as directly to our synergies here, but he helps enable the engines by just keeping them protected, so I think we still remove you. So we definitely were playing with fire there, and we might get burned. We got very greedy. Yeah, so it's 4 wins in a row, but I think that is probably going to come back to bite us here. Those changes that we tried to make. All right, going up against Northern Realms here, and we'll go first. Okay, so we do have 1 Brocklon Sentinel in hand. That is the perfect amount. That means if we can get the Death Blow, we'll summon the other ones out from our deck and get some thinning and extra points on the board. So that is nice. It does mean we're also a little bit concerned about doing much in the way of mulligans here, but I would like to get rid of you, if possible. I'd also like to get rid of you, if possible. Probably. I don't love Tempering, but I'm probably going to settle for it and just not play it in this round so that we don't potentially brick this Brocklon Sentinel here. So let's stick with this. And first turn play, I'm thinking round 1 we're building around either Thirsty Dame or Flutter is generally what we've been doing in the past, and it's worked out fairly well for us here. It's a decent proactive option. So let's go Flutter. I think it's even more so than Thirsty Dame. Generally been our go-to in round 1. Ooh. Okay, that's gonna certainly deal some damage to him. And don't love the fact that they've not played any units here for us to give bleeding to. In fact, I wasn't thinking we were going to use it, but on this occasion, we might actually use tempering. Because otherwise, I mean, we could go Thirsty Dame and get another engine out here early, but that's not ideal. We'd like to save her for round 3 and build around her. We could go Alp and just not get the deploy ability, but once they eventually do play unit, we use the order ability and get some bleed on you there. But I am also a little bit concerned about the amount of damage this Flutter is going to take. We want to keep him kind of safe here. So we'll do this. And then that means if they do play a unit on this turn, obviously we can still get the deploy ability bleed on the Alp, which would be a little bit of extra value. And that's why we boosted him. So what are they, just like a spells deck? Yeah. I think probably mages and spells. And lots of damage. So now it's going to be considerably harder to protect you. We could deliberately put another unit in this row. Just for the sake of splitting the damage from this Cataclysm. Which I think is probably what we're going to do, and it's probably going to be the Alp, like we were saying before. Nothing on the deploy ability, but if they do play another unit, or a single unit on their next turn, hopefully they will eventually, then we can get a boost on this Flutter pretty easily. Finally they do, but I'm guessing this is going to give them damage. It certainly will. Oh, and that was smart. That was well played. Very well played. Guaranteed they have enough damage with Cataclysm to remove the Flutter. So on one hand, they have shut down the engine that we were trying to build around. On the other hand, with all that, they still only have 2 points on the board on their side. And that does mean that we do have a great target for the Brocklon Sentinel to go after. So I think we take this opportunity here. Ramon. Okay, finally we're seeing some units here. Revenant. Yeah, I guess I can sort of understand it. They have a bunch of damaging special cards that in theory means that they can more easily set stuff up for the death blow here, which is presumably what they're going to be trying to do soon. And we know they have another Revenant in hand because Ramon creates a copy of a card that they have in their hand. So we could lock it. That is an option. But we know another one could be coming right after. Yeah. Might still go that route, though. Obviously, the Molheim Hunter is very nice from a control standpoint, and so not thrilled to commit him here. Because we know there's this other one as well. And on this occasion, you are more difficult to deal with. So we might, maybe we'll just Hammond move you, get the bleed, of course, and puts up a decent number of points, such that we're going to force them to play something big. I think it might even be Sabrina's Inferno. That'd be pretty sweet when we have some 2-power cards on the board. And you know, if that's what they're building around, then credit to them. It's a crazy card that you tend not to see. No, it's Colossal Ifrit. Okay, well, I mean, it does set up the 1-power cards for Revenant. So, at this point, it's really too late for Thirsty Dame. Don't really want to be using Junid here or Unseen Elder either. It could be Alp. We get the 3 bleed on deploy. Probably not going to stick around long enough to get the order ability because we'd like to pass on our next turn. Otherwise, we are playing one of our cards we really want to hold on to. So basically, it's pass, or is it Alp? Is it Alp plus a whole bunch of leader ability charges and get a bunch of bleed split across a bunch of their units and get out the Ekimaras? No, I think they have the Brocklon Sentinels, which are easy targets for their Revenants. Let's not force the issue here. Okay, so we drew into our Defender and Dogger, which is a good combo to help protect Dogger. And he is, of course, one of those big cards that we added recently, and might be looking for him to bail us out here. We did lose round 1 on even, so that is tricky. They might try to bleed us out here, and if so, I mean, you're decent in a long round, you're not good in a short round. If they try to tempo pass, guess we can Defender, is not that bad. Then we can get Dogger or Unseen Elder. If we are just looking to throw away, then Bruxa is playable. It's a little risky, including this Bruxa here. I'm curious to see if they pass and go for the double last say, or no, they are going to push at least a bit here. So technically, I do like that they played a small little engine here, because that means that we can also play a small little engine and build up over time the way we'd like to do. So if we go Bruxa and apply the bleed, then that drops them down to a 3. Yeah, we're tied. It's technically not quite enough, but might still settle for it nonetheless. Yeah, because it really seemed like they were going to play further. Francesca. She is threatening. Oh, the Veil. The Veil, though. Oh, that makes it really tough to do anything at all to her. In fact, we can do nothing at all to her. That stinks. Okay. In that case, I mean, I think it still probably does need to be Defender here. I mean, Dogger will trigger the Thrive and more naturally build upon this, and then we can use Figus to boost Thrive again, but Thrive is the least of our concerns right now. Don't really need to be trying to min-max that, because if we play Dogger undefended, when they have Francesca out here and damage from the Arbalest as well, that's just asking for trouble. So it is basically going to be, will Dogger get enough boosts to bail us out here when we cannot shut down Francesca? Mad Kian. Little bit of boosts here. But now, let's put Dogger down. And we would like to get the bleed on somebody here to start boosting Dogger. And if you use this ability and then take damage from the bleed, we could destroy you with Junid, which gives us really nice tempo. Oh, except that's not going to happen. It might still happen if you try to destroy this and then take the damage from the bleed. I mean, yeah, you got rid of our Defender, which stinks. On the other hand, it's not a bad option for us. I mean, Junid is, of course, one of our best cards for sure, but that might still be a worthy investment. Otherwise, we can build up more with Thirsty Dame. They are now onto 1 charge with Francesca, so they might be able to chain two special cards here. and cause some pretty serious trouble. So I think we might need to play big here. Might need to do this. Triggers thrive as well, for what it's worth. And I'm tempted to get... I mean, it's still not going to act quickly enough to get Dogger boosted up beyond 5. 5 is kind of a key breaking point where if he could get higher than that, he might be out of removal range for 1 special. But as... Yep. Paralysis Thunder, but they're going to be able to do it twice. That is exactly the kind of thing I was expecting them to do, but we just didn't really have a way around it, unfortunately. The good thing is, Francesca has now used her ability, which was a big threat we were concerned about. Dogger may be gone, but we do still have several things here that can do some stuff for us, and even after all that, Junior was big enough that they played one more card, and we only need 3 points to catch up to them, so we can go Thirsty Dame. And I think we will. Thirsty Dame, and then Alp. We really don't want to have to play Unseen Elder in this round. And if it starts to look bad, like we might need to, then we'll get really aggressive with the Blood Sense. Is it worth Blood Sense here on Arbalest just to get this Thirsty Dame boosted a bit and have them take a little more damage? Obviously, we have out-tempoed them for the moment, but we've seen they have a lot of damage. It's a big risk. We're going to pass, or rather, at least end our turn there. This might get destroyed. Okay. The fact that they played Ildiko... I mean, she's 6 power, yes. But the biggest and Zeal to subsequent Northern Realms units, the 4-point order, that strongly suggests they are going to play one more turn, which I think means we are going to have to play all of our cards here, which means we should play Unseen Elder now, not Alp. I mean, Alp technically won't have time to use the order then. So you know what? Maybe it is still Alp. Maybe, crazy as it sounds, maybe it is still Alp. We can't give the bleed to Francesca, so using our last charge now doesn't really do anything other than just get the Ekimara out, but we can do that on our next turn. They will take damage from bleed, which means if they want to win this round, they do need to play something. And they will use Leader ability. So presumably it's something that they're trying to set up with Ildiko. Selfkirk, oh, with the Zeal! That's huge. That's huge. Give him the boost as well while you're at it, why not? Destroy Thirsty Dame. That is big. Alright. Yeah, they have a pretty big lead here. 16 points. I don't think we can make this happen. We needed Thirsty Dame to get the boost from this bleed, and this bleed, and this bleed, and then the Ekimara to come out, and that might have been enough, but as soon as we lost Thirsty Dame, I think we lost any chance of making this one happen here. You know, it doesn't really matter who we apply this to. We're just getting the Ekimara out. Won't have time for the bleed to trigger here. So that's our first loss with this deck. And I think technically we did just finish at least one of the quests / challenges for doing the draft mode stuffs. For this event, that is. And we technically do have a lot of easy ways to trigger Bloodthirst. Champion's Charge could be a really nice removal source for that reason. Kind of similar to Junid in that way. Fair Witcher is not terrible, as long as the Adrenaline 4 is there. Warcryer gives us another engine. It's kind of similar to some of the other vampire engines that we have. Wild Hunt Riders does potentially give us a lot of thinning as well, which, as we were saying before, can be useful I also see the Crimson Curse. That is really nice. Naggle's Fair Crew, much less so. But might want to go for this, especially since we have a high damage deck. Getting our opponents down to a low number, or just playing a Wild Hunt Rider on our first turn when we're going first. Nice way for thinning, and see what options we have to remove. Okay, no Troubadours. So it must have been with the Dire Mutated Hound pack, right? And this has been shut down every time we've tried to play it, so I'm very keen on removing that. I'm fine with the Vampires setup. I mean, we might end up replacing something very similar with that. No, we're just adding this time. We're not even removing anything. Okay. Which I actually would have liked to have done. I would have very much liked to have gotten rid of the Iron Falcon Troubadour plus Dire Mutated Hound pack. And of course, that was our first loss, and it was after we swapped out some of our more vampire-centric stuff for things like Dogger. So, was that the reason we lost, or was it just because our opponent had a better deck, or one that matched up more effectively against ours? I mean, that Selkirk plus Ildiko play, really good. Really hard for us to shut that down. And also, the Veil on the Francesca. And we saw it, we knew it was a problem, but we quite literally could do nothing about it. So that was kind of painful. That one was more hard counter. The Selkirk was just really good play. But now we did add... thought we added... a way to remove... Oh, were we looking at the Champion's Charge, but we took Wild Hunt Riders instead? Okay, I was looking for a Champion's Charge, but I didn't see it. Which would have been a way to remove something like Francesca, or at least potentially remove something like Francesca if we got enough Bloodthirst there. But I don't think we went that route. We prioritized thinning instead. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, it is Syndicate this time round, and we'll go first. And we are going first, which means if we get precisely one Wild Hunt Rider in hand, that is great. Precisely one Wild Hunt Rider in hand is great. Okay, which means... wait, no, we've now mulliganed both Wild Hunt Riders, right? So we are not about to risk mulliganing this and getting another Wild Hunt Rider. So I would like to get rid of this Troubadour. Or this Tempering. Or this Kingslayer. Yeah. Let's dump you. Okay. So we go Wild Hunt Rider first because we are guaranteed to have dominance, which means we're getting 12 points out of this and 2 thinning as well, which should greatly improve our consistency for the rest of the match. So I like that. And we do have a Flutter still, so we can use that. Oh, well, they technically have dominance as well. You know, if I expected them to do that, then we could have used tactical advantage there, but I think instead what we'll do is we will now get the Flutter out, and we will proceed to either tactical advantage and or use a Blood Scent charge here to give it some boosts. Yeah, nothing else. I mean, Dogger, if we were going to play him this round, we'd perhaps want to give something like tactical advantage to get him out of removal range, but I don't think we will. Let's save the Blood Scent for the time being. Don't think it's urgent just yet. Jackpot. Okay, well, I was gonna say, you know, are they gonna play anything that synergizes with that? And that's a whole bunch of coins. So now, why don't we get Alp to synergize with the Flutter? Give this a big boost. And we can try to set up Gale next turn. That is theoretically possible. That is going to be an engine for them. We could use Hammond to move it, though, and prevent it from generating coins. which with Jackpot actually means, since they've maxed out their coins already, is worth 1 point per turn. So it's not a bad option. Let's actually do this first, though, because this is worth slightly more turns of bleed, so that means slightly bigger boost on this flutter. So now we do this. I'm deliberately going to avoid playing things in the same row as that flutter, because I don't know what the chances are of them having Tavern Brawl, but it feels like that's at least a possibility. So let's not put our two biggest cards right next to each other. Now I'm wondering if they were going to have Vinsy, in which case moving her with Hammond would have been amazing. And that is a spender. They were in need of one of those. Don't really think we have a great way to shut that down. Can Gale, and may very well Gale, on this turn here. On either of these guys, I mean, you have more bleed, so probably prefer to do it on you. And that'd probably be the last card we'd like to play in this round, to be honest. There we go. Big lead, so I think it would be tough for them to catch us here. Yeah, no pass. All right. So, I mean, we played Hammond, we played Gale, we played Flutter, so we used some of our bigger cards, but obviously still have some big ones remaining as well. What's up, Size Matters? How are you? How are you? We're doing a little bit of some draft mode. We have what is almost entirely... Oh my goodness. Brocklon Sentinels, apparently. No, we have what is almost entirely a Vampires deck. We, as of late, made a few changes and recently added Dogger. We were undefeated until we did that. So, jury is still out if that was the right choice to make. So we won round one. We took one more card to make that happen. We'd like to use the Brocklon Sentinel to get that thinning before we go into round three, but obviously there's nothing for us to target there, so that's not ideal in that way. Otherwise, Kingslayer, don't love that we have him in our deck, but if we're gonna have a throwaway card, this is kind of the time to use him. I mean, I guess getting rid of Pickpocket is not bad. So if they play something that is potentially removable with the Sentinel, that's awesome, we'll play it. Otherwise, we might pass here. Waltzer Veritas. Have they had much in the way of spawning? Not really, right? No way to set up this Sentinel, unfortunately. Anything we can do to outpace them here? I mean, if we use Leader ability plus Protoflutter, if we just load it up on all the bleed in the world on one of these guys, and then use Protoflutter, we could actually make this a pretty huge point slam. The more I think about that, the more tempting that actually becomes. Or we could go Catwitcher Saboteur and possibly use that to set up Brocklon Sentinel, but that's maybe not as time sensitive. It's aggressive. It's very aggressive, but we're gonna go for it. Because that's a 16-point Protoflutter. Imk is obviously very high priority card for them. We move her with the Saboteur. Still not really enough damage to... Well, I mean, we could use that to set up Junid. I mean, I wasn't really planning on pushing all the way here. I was mostly just looking at tempo pass with something like Protoflutter, and or hopefully have them play something to get the Sentinels going here. Could use Tempering as a bit of a throwaway if we really wanted to. Don't love giving them a short round with Jackpot, though, if we do have that happen in round 3. Because that's potentially a big point slam there. But you know what? I'm going to bleed a little bit more here. Try trading a small card for a big card. Tax Collector. Okay, some more coin generators, and that Jackpot is going to become a factor. This is now something that we can use to get our Brocklon Sentinels out. That's really the reason why I was pushing initially. And maybe it was, you know, a little over-aggressive. We could still, actually, at this point, Saboteur, I always forget now how much damage it's worth. Like, does it count itself here? Like, if we do it on the Tax Collector, is that 3 points of damage, or is that actually 4 points of damage? I mean, either way, it's not a bad play, I suppose. Yeah, it's enough to destroy you. In that case, probably would have preferred to have gone for MK and then gotten the death blow on her, because she's obviously more valuable. That would have dropped her down to 2 exactly, right? Yeah, would have been really nice. Would have been really nice. If we want to get the Sentinels out here, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, you're going to die to the bleed. I think we do kind of have to go that route. So there they are. We have the thinning now, which means should have a higher chance of drawing into some good stuff going into round 3, and we probably do want to pass here. We'll see tempo-wise how they fare. They do have some stuff that's set up to generate value long-term, of course, with the Jackpot here. This is going to be 2 points per turn. That's going to be 1 point per turn. Okay. They've not yet caught us. Junit doesn't really have the setup. Dogger, we would have had to have played early if we were planning to use him, and Defender is basically here to protect Dogger. So I think we pass now, so we hopefully do still have some time to set up Dogger in round 3. And we'll see to what extent they're capable of catching us here. So we've played one more card. They really want to catch us with one play here. And Freak Show may very well be able to do it, especially now that they've put a bounty on one of our cards. That is just about exactly what they were looking for, I think. You could always use Jackpot if they really needed to, but I don't think they will. Yeah, well played. Okay. Unseen Elder, we love. Thermolheim Hunter, if they play something big, be good to lock it. Don't like you, though. Okay. But Thirsty Dame or Dire Mutated Hound would probably be better still. I mean, we don't have that much access to damage here, given how much we've used all of our leader ability charges, so it's really just coming from Unseen Elder and not much else. So we might actually stick with this. Okay, Tax Collector. Probably going to see more of the same here. Let's go Defender first. Melee row, because that's where Dogger needs to go. Okay, ooh, Junior. Do they have Devotion? Whoa, they do. Oh, man. And yet another reminder of how we would really like to have Devotion, but we don't. We could consider locking him. I would like to get Dogger down here as quickly as possible, though. If they have an immediate source of damage, they would be able to hit Dogger and then destroy him with Junior. Actually, I was thinking of going Unseen Other first. Yeah. I think we do that. And maybe even put the bleed on Junior. So that if he takes damage, we can potentially remove him with Junid. Another freak show. Okay, someone's got to get locked. And they can destroy Unseen Elder if they really want to. I think at this point, and this is not looking good. You're going to have to get locked. I think you're a higher priority. You can't safely play Dogger until you are locked. You could destroy the Van Molheim Hunter. There's not really anything we can do to stop you. I anticipated that they might have been seen round one. But now it's Dogger, who, unless you have some other source of damage, you will not be able to destroy. But we delayed him long enough that I don't have that many bleeding units left, unfortunately. We won't. I mean, Alp should be next, but we're not going to have enough time to benefit all that much from her. Ooh. Okay, Bounty, yes. But fortunately, we cut off. I mean, they can still use this ability here to remove Van Molheim Hunter, yes. But no coin spending here. The fact that they didn't do that suggests that maybe they do have some other valuable coin spender there. But let's now go Alp. And give the bleed to it. It's not gonna matter very much. But we might be able to get you into to be a damage card, so we have another option for Junid to destroy. Both could have done the same thing for you, but yeah, it is another card that can destroy Dogger. I mean, take your pick. Yeah, and that was, I mean, you just saw how effective building up coins and being able to spend them in a big burst can be. We shut it down briefly when we locked Freak Show, but as I was saying before, I really did not feel like this was a strong deck. I was very surprised by how effective it was early on, and I feel like that was a bit of a false positive there. And sure, we can destroy this Tax Collector with Junid, or you. But that's definitely not going to be enough, and I think we are now just finding the difference between what is actually a good deck and our deck. Okay, and I think this run is close to being over here. This is a key card, and I don't think that any of these are particularly helpful for us. Yes, Haunt is a big scenario, but we've 0 Death Wish cards at the moment. Maybe we could add some with this set, but I just don't think that's worth doing. That's just going to dilute our deck with weird things that don't synergize with one another. And we really just want to finally have the chance to get rid of our neutral cards, and this is not a great way to do it. Not loving these options here. I love that Crimson Curse, Blood Moon is technically considered weather. I mean, it is true, but also more neutrals means thanks but no thanks, and more neutrals here as well. With Berengar. Give us something we can actually take. Like this. For organic. I just don't think we have enough organic stuff in our deck for this to work much, but Lock I think we could definitely do. The Bounty doesn't really matter, but yeah, Kurt's actually the worst card in this set for us. But so Saskia is just a pretty solid card, but not really the synergy to go with her. No other Scorytail cards besides this Hamadryad. So the Harmony is basically irrelevant. But she is worth, what, 5 plus 3 plus 2, so 10-ish. It's not bad. Is that reason enough to take this set if it's just for Saskia and Saskia alone? Top end is better, low end is better. How many cards do we have that we actually want to play? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not really. 9. Debatable. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then you're starting to look at last couple cards are not great ones, but again, we're going to play 16 cards every match. So we need to have 16 cards that we're at least willing to play, which would suggest that we might want to have a decent enough low end, because we'll be top heavier than we'd like to be if we were to add Saskia here. But maybe we can settle for some of this. No, I think we do this. Okay. Remove. Give us the one with the neutrals. No. We're definitely keeping this. This is possibly our best. This is almost certainly our best set here. Flutter has been amazing. Thirsty Dame has been amazing. Proto Flutter we just saw in the previous match. It was good. Everything else didn't go as well. But, I think we like this stuff. We might need to get rid of the Brocklon Sentinels here. Yes, you could potentially dump the Defender. It's a luxury, not a necessity for the most part. But I think this is, by the looks of things, our last match here. Again, off to a great start. It didn't feel like our deck was all that strong, so I was surprised by those wins, and I think this was a bit of a reality check for us. I mean, it's really a reality check when you acknowledge the fact that you should not be performing the way you've been performing. Been overachieving a lot here, but we'll see. This might be our last chance to finish off with one more win. Okay, so what do we have here? It's Nilfgaard, and we'll go first. Okay, and I know I was just speaking ill of Kurt, but the Purification could actually be useful against a likely control-heavy imposter deck here. So it does make it much safer for us to put down things like Dogger, Thirsty Dame, and Unseen Elder. In terms of what we'd like to build around in this round, let's get rid of Tempering. Not a fan of the Agitator. That's not terrible. Oh, we have one Wild Hunt Rider, which is actually really nice. Start off when we're on blue coin, so yeah, let's not use this last mulligan because I'd like to make sure we only have one Wild Hunt Rider in hand here. So we get the full value out of that. And the thinning as well. We got rid of the Brocklon Sentinels. We had to. I didn't want to. But the Wild Hunt Riders are very similar. Passiflora. That's a little surprising. Okay. So, this is going to be a pretty potent engine. Does that warrant lock? Or is there some other thing that we could do? I mean, bleed it, but it's going to basically outboost the bleed or keep pace with it. So I think it is probably lock here. It is probably lock. So that was going to get pretty huge if left unaddressed. Okay, well, they have another one. I always forget. When you have bonded units and one of them is locked, does that mean the unlocked one still triggers bonded because there is another one on the board? Or does it not trigger bonded because it's locked? They also trigger the next chapter. And we'd like to get Thirsty Tame. I think that is the engine that we're trying to build around in this round. So let's do this. The problem is, I mean, I really want to try to set up Gale, but it's not all that feasible when all these guys are going to get boosted up, and this Thirsty Dame could very well be the recipient of their imposter. They don't yet have the coins, so maybe we do this, and we see if we can get, if this doesn't get boosted, if they don't have the coins to trigger this, or if they trigger this scenario, they're going to make it happen, and they made it happen. That stinks. You're going to get boosted, which means you're going to stay at 4. I mean, I like that you're putting on the saddest, but gets you out of Gale removal range. We can destroy street urchins with Gale. Oh, well, if we give it bleed, which we've not yet done. Which could do that with leader ability, could do that with Alp, but I suppose, actually, now that you're locked, this is a card that we can give the bleed to and get you into removal range for Gale. So I do like that. And that may end up being the last card we play in this round. We'll see. Okay, we got some extra value out of the Thirsty Dame. I'm surprised they didn't just immediately lock her, to be honest. But now we can do... Well, Gale on you. I'm just wondering, Alp, between these two. You're an engine. You're not. You're lower power. Probably gonna... And you're the only point scoring coin spender. Oh, we could also purify Thirsty Dame for what it's worth. Kind of want to save this for working around Imposter, but we do have our Defender. So maybe we actually can use Kurt here. And give bleed to you. That gives us more time to power up Thirsty Dame further. But honestly, tempo-wise, we're looking pretty good here. We've not yet even used our stratagem, and we have a very solid lead. So do we need Kurt? Oh, Hokim's a big point slam, though. Okay, let's see what this turns into. Do we have any spot? Well, one from Hokim. Yeah, see, this is the spending we were expecting to see. So now it's technically a little bit overkill damage, but it is still the best option for Gale to go after this Seductress, because it gives him the most base power. So that's that play. And this might be the last one we want to take on this, in this round. So let's use our stratagem here. That puts us 19 points ahead at the moment, 20 when you factor in this bleed. They can still spend some coins with street urchins if they'd like to. They don't have that many, though. In fact, they don't really want to spend any more, otherwise they brick Peaches. Hard. Bit of a point slam. Not enough to catch us. Okay. So, 10-point lead here. How do we feel about passing? They're going to get 1 point from this, lose 1 point from this, so it's going to stay at 10 points unless they do something here. They don't really want to spend these coins, as we said. Otherwise, they brick Peaches. We are going to play something. It'd probably be Hammond, because 7 points is a decent slam, and it does give another status to our opponents, which does power up Thirsty Dame a little bit more. Is that worth doing? It might be.
Welcome.
To try to lock in this win here. Oh, and KG Hearts and Wine, thanks for the follow. Hope you enjoyed the stream. We're just doing some draft mode here. What is likely to be at or near the end of this draft run. Had a nice early start in which we went 4-0 with a very bleed-centric vampires-like deck. But the problem was, well, the deck didn't feel that good. Somehow we still got wins with it early on. Then it seems like we started facing some people who just had better decks. And so we lost a few there. We made some changes to the deck, which might have been a little bit too greedy for our own good. And now we are here and seeing if some of those changes can still carry us to a win. And we have a 14-point lead, one bleeding unit. One bleeding unit on their side. They're still on 4 coins. You'll get boosted. They may want to use this Alp on their next turn. How do we feel about passing? I mean, I really don't want to play any of these guys. I think we kind of have to. And we'll take our chances here. We hope they can't catch us. Even if they do, obviously they're going a card down to do it, so it's not the absolute end of the world. Oh, whoa. That is a huge Igni. Oh my goodness. We have 3 6-power cards. Okay, you know what? We'll take it. If that's what it required for them to win round 1, we'll take it. Glad for them to get rid of that. Okay, and we still have a couple of leader ability charges remaining, which means we can use Protoflutter as a decent point slam for that reason. They played 1 more card than us, so they're probably going to dry pass, in which case the Troubadour is not a bad option for that. We can kind of sort of get a little bit of carryover value from that, maybe give armor to either a defender or to Dogger. But if they do try to bleed us, that could be a little bit of a concern. I mean, we have big cards, yes, but we'd rather not be committing these guys in this round. I'm gonna guess Protoflutter gives us tempo, so maybe this is still okay. They would not play Thirsty Dame if they weren't planning on pushing, right? Probably not. So that's a little concerning. We probably need to lock that. To be honest, we probably need to lock that, and then tempo-wise, we would need to... Blood Scent... Means we're at 3, they're at 3, that's still not enough? That is... Hate that. Well then. Where does that leave us? Exactly where we did not want to be. Yeah. So, is it a Protoflutter point slam? It might have to be. Or do we just... Yeah, I think it kind of has to be. Or we do that and then we lock, except this was specifically to set up Protoflutter, so I think it still kind of has to be this. 13-point Protoflutter, maybe that dissuades them from playing further. Hopefully. Maybe. Please don't bleed us further. And then they play a Masquerade Ball. Okay. Well, they mean business. They clearly mean business. Order of operations. Obviously, they're going all in. We'd like to lock you. We'd like to lock both of you, but we can't really do that. We'd like to lock you. We'd like to get Dogger down so that we can get him boosted at the same time he becomes a very obvious target for Masquerade Ball. So we probably don't use him. We could use Defender, and that becomes the Masquerade Ball poison removal target, and then maybe Dogger safe after that. If we are going that route, then I think we just go do this first. Tempo-wise, we're still in the lead. So I think that still makes a lot of sense. Probably Defender next. Then Dogger. Well. We want them to just stop playing this round, most of all. I mean, that's a good aristocrat. Fortunately, we shut down one of their engines. But yeah, that does also make the poison removal easier for them. Now they can, what, lock? Protoflutter this turn. Oh. Wait, what? Why would you... I mean, sure. Why would they... Hold on, can we read anything into that? They have another source of poison, don't they? Well, they're going to use Masquerade Ball, round 2 to remove you. Okay. And then they're going to rely on Philippe to poison you. That's probably what this is all about, which means we should Defender here on this turn. As much as I really wanted to put that in the melee row to protect Dogger, I mean, Dogger at this point doesn't really have time for setup. And if they remove this 13-point Protoflutter, we lose. If they do not, we hopefully still win. There's the leader ability on our defender, which pretty solid point slam. I mean, Unseen Elder can technically still deal damage through it. And we hopefully just made this last chapter of Masquerade Ball very awkward for them. But I don't like that. Because that is the perfect play. On several levels. Remove the defender and the 13 power unit in the same turn. Well done. Any way we can still salvage this here? I mean, that's most of their removal. They will be able to destroy this Ekimara with Philippe. I mean, Dogger plus Unseen Elder doesn't really have enough time to get boosted enough to catch them here, I don't think. So I am pretty sure they have sealed the win here. And I mean, honestly, that was just impressive play. And of course, they may still be able to do something to Dogger here. That was their last card. We did have one more card than them. So we technically have double last say here in round 2, but that's probably not going to be sufficient. They have too big of a margin here for us to try to fight through. And we kind of took our chances when it came to the cards we drew into here. We thought, well, they're probably not going to push right. Oh, but they did. So, you know, I don't know if we had a Dire Mutated Hound or a Junid, maybe, but it's not so much that they had highly boosted cards. Not that Junid can get rid of boosted cards, but it's more so just they went wide with Masquerade Ball and they had the removal. And that was definitely enough for them. So I think that might be the end of this draft run. We'll have to see. Let's double check. Yeah, it was. So again, went 4-0 at the beginning. Everything was going well, although it was surprising because it didn't feel like our deck was very good. Somehow, just pure bleed and vampires was able to get those quick 4 wins. And then we started to get a little bit greedy, perhaps, and try to swap some things out for non-bleed, non-vampires. And it seemed like theoretically that stuff synergized, but in truth, maybe it was that was the thing that set us back. Or maybe we just started running into stronger enemies. Some combination of those two things. But 4 wins, I mean, it's still half decent. What, it's like 7 matches in a draft run, so we technically still did slightly above average. So, you know, you get a keg, 60 ore and 40 scraps, and what was the entry price? Was like 100 ore, I think. So technically we did come out ahead. Well, actually, not a huge margin, but we did. So that's saying something. And let's take a look here at the event itself. We did not only unlock the Sweet Tempter title, but also the Gaunter avatar, which I think this is the highlight. This is probably the primary reason why I wanted to make a point of doing those draft runs. I mean, both these things. I'm not sure I'm going to be using this title at all, but this is just the fact that it's both Gaunter and that he's making a very silly face. I feel like there's a lot of meme potential here for sure. So, all right. I think, obviously, I'm surprised. I'm still surprised that we were as successful as we were in that run with what never quite felt like it was an amazing deck, but with 4 wins, we'll take it. We'll still take it.